Imagine this, a person in a heated argument, their face flushed with anger, their voice rising. But what if I told you that this anger is not about the situation itself, but about something deeper, fear? I've spent time studying psychology and have researched expert opinions and scientific studies that suggest anger and fear are intertwined. Experts in psychology, such as Dr. Carolyn D. Jacinto, support the idea that emotions like anger often stem from underlying fears. I know many of us have experienced anger in our lives, whether it was in a personal relationship, at work, or in society. We've all had those moments when we reacted more intensely than the situation called for. This speech will help you understand the connection between fear and anger, which can improve not only how we interact with others, but also how we manage our own emotions. Anger is often a mask for fear, and understanding this relationship can help us address both emotions more effectively. Today I will discuss 3 key points. 1. The psychological connection between anger and fear. 2. How fear causes us to react in anger, particularly in stressful situations. 3. The ways we can address this fear to manage our anger and improve our relationships. Let's begin by understanding the psychological connection between anger and fear. Part A, Body A. First main idea, the psychological connection between anger and fear. Expanded explanation. When we feel fear, it triggers a series of physiological responses in our body. Imagine walking down a dark alley hearing footsteps behind you. Your heart races, your palms sweat, and your breathing becomes shallow. You might feel the need to fight or run. This fight or flight response is deeply embedded in us. It's our body's way of preparing to face danger. But in our modern world, this reaction can happen even in less life-threatening situations, like a heated argument at work or a tense family dinner. Supporting material. According to the American Psychological Association 2021, when people feel threatened, their natural response is to enter a fight or flight mode, which often results in anger. The body releases stress hormones, and anger is one way of preparing for confrontation or escape. Supporting material, Dr. Carolyn D. Jacinto, a psychologist, notes that fear often leads to defensiveness, which can manifest as anger. When people feel insecure or vulnerable, anger becomes a defense mechanism. Supporting material. Studies show that people who experience high levels of fear and anxiety are more likely to express their fear through anger rather than acknowledging the root emotion. Smith and Hall, 2020. Personal story. I'll share a personal experience to illustrate this. I once argued with a close friend, and I was shocked at how angry I became, even though the situation didn't seem that serious. Afterward, I realized I was afraid of losing the relationship. Fear of abandonment, something I hadn't acknowledged at the time, drove my anger. When we don't recognize these fears, they often come out as anger. Now that we understand the psychological connection, let's explore how fear triggers anger, especially in stressful situations. Stress, whether it's from work, relationships, or societal pressure, is a breeding ground for anger. The fear of not measuring up, fear of failure, fear of rejection, or even fear of being judged fuels these emotional outbursts. When we don't have the tools to process these fears, they explode into anger, often in disproportionate ways. In stressful environments, people often respond with anger because they perceive the situation as a threat. According to a study by the National Institute of Mental Health, 2019, people in high-stress jobs are more likely to show aggressive behaviors, which are often driven by unacknowledged fears of failure or inadequacy. Supporting material. A case study by the Anxiety and Depression Association of America, 2022, found that individuals with untreated anxiety disorders often resort to angry outbursts when confronted with challenges that evoke fear of loss of control. Supporting material. In a 2017 article, Fear and Anger, The Hidden Connection, Dr. J. Michael Miller explains that our physiological response to stress, such as increased heart rate and adrenaline, can easily shift into anger when we don't recognize the underlying fear. Personal reflection, I've seen this in action, particularly in moments when I've felt pressure in a social setting, like a family gathering or a work meeting. In those moments, my fear of being judged led me to snap or respond defensively, when in reality, my fears were much bigger than the actual situation. Transition to next main point. Now that we've seen how fear causes anger, let's discuss how we can address this fear to better manage our emotions. See third main idea, addressing fear to manage anger and improve relationships. Expanded explanation. Once we understand that fear is the root cause of much of our anger, we can start to confront it directly. One powerful technique for addressing fear is cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. CBT helps individuals challenge irrational thoughts and replace them with more balanced perspectives. It allows people to identify their fears before they morph into anger. Supporting material, cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT techniques have been proven effective in helping individuals identify and manage fear. According to the Mayo Clinic 2020, CBT teaches people to confront irrational fears and change the thought patterns that lead to angry reactions. Supporting material. Mindfulness practices also help reduce the intensity of anger. A study by Dr. Jon Kabat-Zinn, 2021, demonstrated that mindfulness meditation can reduce fear responses in the brain, leading to better control over emotions. Supporting material. Lastly, open communication and emotional awareness are key. According to the National Institute of Mental Health 2021, individuals who are more self-aware of their emotional states can identify fear before it escalates into anger, allowing them to respond in a more measured way. Case example. For example, I've started using mindfulness techniques before big meetings at work. I find a quiet space, close my eyes for a few moments, and focus on my breathing. By taking a few seconds to pause and reflect, I'm able to reduce my fear of making mistakes, which helps me approach situations with more calm and clarity. Conclusion A. Review today. We learned that anger is often a response to fear. We examined the psychological connection between the two emotions, how fear can lead to anger in stressful situations, and how we can address the fear to manage anger more effectively. B. Call for action. I encourage you to recognize when fear is behind your anger. By addressing the fear through techniques like CBT and mindfulness, you can reduce your angry reactions and foster healthier relationships with others. C. Closure. In conclusion, next time you feel that surge of anger, take a moment to ask yourself, what am I really afraid of? Understanding the connection between anger and fear could be the key to not only controlling your emotions, but also transforming how you interact with the world around you.